Good morning, children. Let us continue with the chapter Evolution. Today we will study about the evidences of evolution. But before that, let us revise what evolution is. The term evolution was coined by Herbert Spencer. It means to unfold or unroll or to reveal hidden potentialities. Evolution is described as the descent with modification or continuity of life with constant modifications. Evolution, or you can call it organic evolution, can be defined as a process of gradual changes in organisms from simple to more complex over a long period of time. It is a naturally occurring biological process that results in development of more and more complex life from simpler life over millions of years. Therefore, evolution is very slow but continuous, and the most important thing you have to remember is that it is an irreversible process. Now we come to principles of evolution. Evolution is a slow and irreversible process. Secondly, life is not constant. It is flexible and can change according to changing environmental conditions. Thirdly, it is a continuous and dynamic process as environmental conditions are continuously changing. Evolution results in the formation of new species, and naturally they are better than the older species. All organisms have evolved from some common source of life. Now we'll continue with evidence of evolution. Evidence means proof. So we will take evidences from various lines, and the first is evidence from comparative anatomy and morphology. Now, study of internal organs of the body is called anatomy. Anatomy provides many strong clues in favor of evolution. The structural and functional similarities of body organs of different organisms suggest their common ancestry. Okay, what? Their structural and functional similarities of body organs of different organisms, they prove that they have all evolved from a common ancestor. The similarities among different types of organisms can be traced on the basis of structure of organs and functions of this organ. Now, based on this, there are four types of organs. Firstly, homologous organs. Secondly, analogous organs, vestigial organs, and atavistic organs. Now, what are homologous organs? Which show structural similarity. Analogous organs show functional similarity. Then we have vestigial organs and atavistic. So we begin with homologous organs, structural similarity or homology. The similarity between structure of different organisms is called homology. Now you have to remember here, similarity between structures of different organisms. The term homologous was introduced by Richard Owen. Organs of different organisms which differ in their functions but have same structural plan and origin are called homologous organs. So remember, they differ in functions but their structural plan and origin are the same. So we'll do some examples from animals and some examples from plants. So first is examples from animals. Now, first, if we take into in accordance the wings of bat, wings of bird, arm of man, paw of cat, forelimbs of horse, and flippers of seal. Now, whether it's the wing of a bat or a wing of a bird or the arm of man or paw of cat, and so on, what will happen? These organs show similar structural plan. They have the same similar bones like humerus, radioulna, carpals, metacarpals, and phalanges, but they perform different functions. So that is why you are calling them homologous organs. Why? because they differ in their functions. They have the same structural plan, but they differ in their functions. Like for example, the wings of birds help in flight, arms of man help in grasping, forelimbs of horse help in running, and flippers of seal help in swimming. So here you can see that they have the same structural plan, but they differ in their function, and so they are called homologous organs. We'll do another example of heart of fish, frog, lizard, bird and man. They show similarity in their basic structure, as the auricles receive the blood and ventricles pump the blood. The function of heart in different groups is different because of differences in the mode of life. For example, heart of fish, if we take into according, it pumps only venous blood. The heart of frog, it pumps a mixed blood. But in birds and mammals, heart does not allow the mixing of pure and impure blood and pumps only pure blood to body organs. Okay. Now we come to the parts of brain in vertebrates. The brain of vertebrates shows similar structures like cerebrum, cerebellum, medulla, olfactory bulbs, etc. Then mouth parts of insects, they are built on similar plan, but due to different feeding habits, they have been modified accordingly. For example, the mouth part of male mosquitoes, they are adapted for sucking the nectar. Here you can see functionally they are different. Structurally they are the same. While mouth parts of female mosquito are adapted for sucking the blood of man. Mouth parts of cockroach are adapted for biting and chewing. So, structurally they are the same, but functionally they are different. The last example in animals is similar exoskeleton in arthropods. All arthropods have segmented body, okay, with an exoskeleton of chitin. The exoskeleton is constructed on the same basic pattern in all classes of arthropods, but exoskeleton has been modified in different arthropods. Okay. Examples from plants. A thorn of bougainvillea and a tendril of cucurbita. Both perform different functions, but both are modification of stem. So structurally, both are modification of stem, but functionally they have different functions. Like bougainvillea, that is for protection against animals, and tendril is for climbing. Then rhizome of ginger and tuber of potato, both are modification of stem. Tendril of pea and spine of cactus, both are modification of leaf. So structurally they are the same, but functionally tendril of pea helps in climbing, spine of cactus for protection. Then homology suggests that all organisms once had a common ancestor, but due to differences in their habits and habitat, they got adapted to perform different functions from the similar organs. These structures represent divergent evolution. Now you will like to know what is divergent evolution. Animals which have a close ancestry can develop remarkable changes and differences when they get separated from each other and when they start living in different climatic conditions. This is what is called divergent evolution. Analogous organs, structural similarity or analogy. Now here you can see there is similarity in functions of the organs of different organisms, and this similarity in functions of the organs of different organisms is called analogy. Organs of some animals, they have similar functions, but here they are differing in their structure, origin and development. Such organs are called analogous organs. So let us do some examples from animals. First, wing of insect and wing of birds. Now, they are completely different in their internal structure and origin, but they perform similar function, and that is flying. Fins of fish and flippers of penguins and dolphins, they are also completely different in structure and origin, but they perform similar functions, that is movement of water. Sting of honeybee and sting of scorpion. Sting of honeybee has a different function. Sting of scorpion has a different function, but they have the sting of honeybee and scorpion, they have the same function, but they are structurally. One is present, like in the case of scorpion, it's present in the last abdominal segment, and sting of honeybee, it's different. Then eyes of invertebrates like octopus and eyes of mammals, they also differ. And gills of fish and gills of prawn, they are structurally again different. But what are they performing? The same function of respiration in water. Now we'll do some examples of analogous organs from plants. Now sweet potato is a root modification, and potato, you know, is a stem modification. They are analogous because both serve to store food. Then functionally they are the same, but structurally they are different, as sweet potato is a root and potato is a stem. Similarly with tendrils of grapes, it is a stem modification. Tendrils of pea, they are leaf modifications. Functionally they are the same, but you can say structurally one is a stem modification, the other is a leaf modification. Leaves of plants and cladode of asparagus, they are the asparagus. Cladode of asparagus is a stem modification. So these are the examples from plants. So analogous organs have no structural similarity, yet both perform the same function. Analogy suggests that organisms which are not closely related may develop similar types of organs under similar habitats. So analogous organs are in fact the result of convergent evolution. So let us now do the difference between what is convergent evolution and divergent evolution. Now convergent evolution states that the animals which are distantly related and have no close ancestors, they can develop similar shape and structures under similar climatic condition. This is called convergent evolution. For example, whale is not a fish, it is a mammal, but it is found in water and it has developed its shape and structure in such a way that it starts looking like a fish. So they are distantly related, they have no close ancestors and can develop similar shape and structure under similar climatic condition, and this is what is called convergent evolution. Divergent evolution, we've already discussed. The animals which have a close ancestry, they can develop remarkable changes and difference when they get separated from each other and when they start living in different climatic conditions. This is called divergent evolution. We'll be doing this in detail when we do Darwin's finches or evidence from biogeography. The Darwin's finches, they provide the best example of divergent evolution. Finches are birds which are of all islands. They had a common ancestry, but they develop remarkable changes in their beak and plumage because climatic conditions of one island are different from the other. So divergent evolution is the result of adaptive radiation. Now we come to vestigial organs. Now what are vestigial organs? Some structures in the body of organisms are not functional. At present, however, these structures were functional in their ancestors, and such structures which are now of no use in the body but were of use in the ancestors are called vestigial organs. Now we'll do some vestigial organs or examples in man. So like vermiform appendix represents the cecum which was functional in our ancestors and which were herbivorous. Coccyx, it's the last vertebra, it represents the remains of the tail vertebra. The nictitating membrane is also the third eyelid and it is functional in frogs and helps to see in water. In human beings, it's got no use. Wisdom tooth is the last molar of wisdom tooth and it is vestigial because it is the last to erupt and sometimes even fails to erupt. Then auricular muscles of ear pinna, they are involuntary in man but they are voluntary in lower mammals. Hair on the chest of man. Vestigial structures clearly exhibit the relationship between an organism and its ancestors and suggest that organs that are not in use become functionless and degenerate with time. Next we come to evidences from embryology. Now Carl von Baer, 1828, is called the father of embryology. He proposed that embryos of different organisms exhibit remarkable homologous similarities which suggest their common ancestry. And he also proposed that organisms which share common descent exhibit similar embryological patterns on which they later built their adult patterns, and this was called Bayer's law. E. Haeckel later on reinterpreted this law. He suggested that each organism during its embryonic development, that is ontogeny, repeats the evolutionary history of its ancestors' phylogeny. In other words, ontogeny, that is the embryonic development of the organism, repeats the evolutionary history of its ancestor, that is phylogeny. In other words, ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny, and this is called the theory of recapitulation, also called biogenetic law or embryological parallelism. Study of embryos of different organisms provides strong clues in favor of evolution. We are doing the clues, the proof, the evidence of evolution. So, study of the embryo of different organisms, it provides such clues in favor of evolution. For example, if we take all the vertebrates into account, all vertebrate embryos show the formation of gill slits. They are present even in the human embryo. Gill slits are useful in fishes as they are found in water. But these gill slits are of no use in land vertebrates. So the question arises that why this structure appears in the embryo of land vertebrates? And answers can be given even only if we assume that land vertebrates have originated from fish. Evidences from fossils or paleontological evidences. Fossils are petrified remains or impressions of organisms of the past. You must know the definition. They are the petrified remains or the impressions of organisms of the past. They help us to understand the process of evolution by giving clues or proof to interpret the habit and habitat of these organisms. They reflect the history of the past in real sense, hence are the true witness of evolution. The study of fossils is called paleontology. Leonardo da Vinci is called as the father of paleontology. The founder of modern paleontology is George Cuvier. Fossils are of different types: visibly unaltered fossils, petrified fossils, molds or casts, etc. There are many methods to determine the age of fossils, like the most common method is carbon dating or C14 and lead-uranium method. Many fossils of mollusks and echinodermates have been found at Erula, India. Many fossil deposits have been discovered from Shivalik Hills, India. Recently in Ethiopia, some fossils of primitive human have been found. Fossil records of horse and elephant present a complete series indicating how their evolution occurred. Now, in your syllabus, you have a very interesting bird, and that is Archaeopteryx. And we will study about the fossil of Archaeopteryx. And it's a connecting link between reptiles and birds. You know, you have amphibians, then reptiles, then birds. Amphibians, then reptiles, then you have firstly fishes, then amphibians, then reptiles, then birds, then mammals. Okay, but this bird is a connecting link between the reptiles and birds and clearly suggests the origin of birds from reptiles. The fossil of Archaeopteryx was discovered by Andreas Wagner in 1861 from Bavaria, Germany. It was discovered from the rocks of Jurassic period. So you can see on the screen the fossil of the Archaeopteryx, and it was discovered from the rocks of the Jurassic period, and it represents an important connecting link between reptiles and birds because it possesses characters of both the groups, and this clearly suggests that the birds have evolved from reptiles. Now, reptilian characters of Archaeopteryx. Now, this is very, very important. what are the reptilian characters? Like you can see in the diagram, what are the features which are present in this bird. It should have bird like avian features, but it has reptilian features also, like it is elongated lizard like body. It's got a long pointed tail. Second, it has got jaws, with homodont dentition. Then it has solid bones which are non-pneumatic. Birds may you have pneumatic bones. It is amphicoelous or biconcave vertebral centrum, as in many reptiles. It's got a single-headed ribs with no uncinate process, and it has a caudal vertebra, or the tail vertebra. The caudal vertebra are free, and there is no pygostyle. Avian characters, uh, that is presence of feathers, forelimbs are modified into wings, then presence of V-shaped furcula, jaws are modified into the beak, and the limb bones are bird-like, skull bones are fused like in birds, foot contains tarso, metatarsus and four clawed digits. So this was Archaeopteryx, a connecting link between the reptiles and the birds. You also call this fossil of Archaeopteryx as a missing link, because it's not present now. So it's a missing connecting link, and this fossil of Archaeopteryx. Now we come to the next, evidences from biogeography. Now, biogeography is the study of geographical distribution of the organism. No organism is uniformly distributed all over the world, but each is restricted to a definite area, and each such area or geographical region has a specific flora and fauna. The pattern of distribution helps to understand the nature and habitat of the organism, and it helps in understanding evolutionary process. P.L. Sciatter and A.R. Wallace divided the world into 6 wide biogeographical regions or realms, like the Palearctic region, Ethiopian region, Oriental region, Australian region, Nearctic region, and Neotropical region. You've done it in geography in your earlier classes. Scientists believe that millions of years ago, all these realms, continents, were in the form of a single landmass known as Pangaea. Due to geographical changes and movements of the Earth's crust, the huge landmass broke off, and its parts were drifted apart from one another and they moved away. And this was also referred to as the theory of continental drifting. Because of variable climatic conditions on these separated landmasses, plants and animals adapted themselves accordingly. Now here in the chart you can see the table and on the screen, and in the table you can see that the different biogeographical regions of the world, like the Palearctic consists of North Europe, Russia and whole Himalayas. Ethiopian region includes the African countries. The Oriental region consists of South Asia including India. Australian region consists of Australia and New Zealand. Nearctic region is North America, and Neotropical South America. The study of the distribution of flora and fauna in these regions suggests many important evidences in favor of evolution, and it is found that the regions with similar climatic conditions were populated by similar types of organisms. On the other hand, regions which had different climatic conditions developed different types of organism. And now we'll do certain examples of this. And the first is the example is of the Galapagos Islands. Now, the flora and fauna of Galapagos Islands. Now, this Galapagos Island was a chain of 21 islands in the Pacific Ocean on the equator along the west coast of South America, and resemble those of South American mainland. What resembles? The flora and fauna of these islands resembles that of South American mainland, with which these islands were once connected. But the finches on these 21 Galapagos Islands, which are situated very close to each other, also have remarkable differences in their habitat. Why? Because of difference in the biogeographical conditions. Okay, so that here they are populated by different types of because of the regions which have different climatic conditions, they develop different types of organisms. Then Madagascar is only 260 miles away from the east coast of Africa, but organisms of the two regions, they show remarkable differences. So you can do any two of these examples. Now we come to evidences from genetics and molecular biology. Now, genetic studies of different organisms also provide strong evidences in favor of evolution. Like, the first is that all organisms ranging from bacteria to man have exactly similar genetic code. For example, codon AUG codes for methionine amino acid in all organisms. We have done this in genetics. Secondly, all organisms are governed by the same genetic laws. Then crossing over occurs essentially in all sexually reproducing animals, whether they are plants or whether they are animals. Then all organisms are sensitive to genetic mutations. These are all examples from genetics. Okay. Genetic code is universally applicable to all living beings, starting from bacteria to human. Closely related species have close similarity in their chromosome number. For example, the chromosome number in human is 23 pairs. Apes, it is 24 pairs. It suggests that human and apes are phylogenetically more close to each other. The banding pattern of chromosomes of closely related species are also very similar. Genetic studies explain how new species can be formed by a change in gene structure. A comparison of physiologically important reaction and substances also establish a very close similarity between an organism and its ancestors. For example, the serum profile of man is very similar to that of a chimpanzee but has no similarity with the serum profile of a dog. So these are evidences from molecular biology. Cytochromes are the respiratory pigment in ETS in all eukaryotic organisms, that is, organisms with a complex nucleus or well-defined nucleus. Oxyhemoglobin crystals are characteristic of each vertebrate species. The crystals of closely related species are very similar. The nature of waste products of different organisms is correlated with their aquatic and terrestrial mode of life. We have done it in class 11th. For example, birds and reptiles are both uricotelic. Okay, human beings are ureotelic. Closely related organisms have similar kinds of physiological proteins. For example, all eukaryotes possess histone proteins. Then, most important, ATP is the energy currency for all living organisms, and blood group Rh is found in man and monkeys both. So today, children, we have studied about all the evidences of organic evolution. You must know 2 examples at least from animals and 2 from plants. Okay, and with this, in our next class, we are going to study about the theories of evolution. Thank you.